After enjoying a double podium at the Spanish Grand Prix, engineers back at Brackley are working effortlessly to improve the team's fortunes for this and next year. With the team witnessing positive results, masterminds in the factory have decided to focus on renovating the car's suspension system, which they believe will unlock a huge chunk of performance. So let's find out what these massive changes are the team is trying to make to its suspension. And let's talk about how these changes are key for Mercedes to negotiate a new contract with Lewis Hamilton. Mercedes has taken a drastic change in direction in terms of car concept when they introduced this huge upgrade package at Monaco. Everyone was excited for the new sidepods Mercedes has brought, but the most important part of those upgrades is the new front suspension. When compared with the previous front suspension system, the new one is a lot different. The new suspension system has a lot of anti-dive characteristics in it. Clear indication that Mercedes has taken a lot of inspiration from the dominant RB19. Most say that the floor of current cars is the important part, which teams should pour most focus on. The floor might be the part generating nearly more than half the car's downforce, but I believe the suspension system is also equally important as well. This was confirmed by Red Bull's Chief Technical Officer Adrian Newey. He has talked about making the car's suspension his priority when designing the RB19, as he added, "All F1 teams are big engineering teams, but in terms of the involvement in meetings, I put my tuppence worth in. But it's the guys who bat those ideas around and come up with a list and go away and do the work. Specifically on this car, I did the front and rear suspension and a few other bits and pieces." If you pay a close look at the RB19's vehicle dynamics, you can see how much low to the ground the car is able to run. Be it the straights or the corners, the Red Bull car is very stable and is able to maintain a constant low ride height without running into any bouncing or porpoising problems. This is made possible by the use of an intricate detailed floor combined with a clever suspension system. To explain it in short, Red Bull is using a lot of anti-dive and anti-squat to keep the car stable under acceleration and braking, allowing the car to maintain a stable center of aerodynamic pressure. That allows the car to run low and generate a lot of downforce at a very stable manner, which its rivals are struggling to achieve at the moment. On the F1 Nation podcast, Tom Clarkson said that the 9 teams behind Red Bull should pay particular attention to the area where their Chief Technical Officer Adrian Newey concentrated his efforts on the RB19, which seems to be the biggest performance differentiator. I maintain that Adrian Newey spending more time focused on the suspension of this year's Red Bull is such a hugely significant bit of intel, he said. That's where the performance is. It's all about maintaining a smooth ride height as low as possible with these cars. Red Bull have nailed it, no one else has, and that is the difference in performance between the cars. Mercedes has for a fact taken note of this and admitted themselves that it's their suspension system that needs changing. This is where the team is targeting upgrades, as the Red Bull sort of suspension carries a lot of advantages. It does carry downsides like tire warm-up issues, but the upsides do outweigh the downsides. That is why the team made an entire new front suspension system for the W14. But the team has talked about making much more changes to the car's suspension system, as Andrew Shovlin mentioned that the suspension is where the richest seam of development for the team is. When talking about the new front suspension of the W14, Shovlin mentioned about how much more freedom the new suspension is giving the engineers in terms of setup, and also talked about how they are able to get a much better front end. It is a case of trying to play with those geometries to get an influence on the aero platform to try and get a bit more stability in the car. It's probably given us more freedom because the issue that we always had prior to that was getting good front end when you needed it at the apex and good entry stability when you're hard on the brakes and turning in. That compromise was always something that we couldn't resolve. You're always left with either a weak rear on entry or a poor front at apex. So, hopefully, that's moved us in the right direction. The front suspension is just half of the entire car's suspension, and the rear suspension should be revised according to the changes made to the front. Shovlin talked about this and mentioned that the rear suspension is the major focus of the team for the team's 2024 car, potentially the W15. You may ask, why can't they do a new rear suspension for 2023 for the W14? There are 2 factors influencing this decision. First is the budget cap, and the second factor is the homologation of the gearbox design. Andrew Shovlin has mentioned that the most expensive revision of the entire upgrade package has been the front suspension, and stressed the team's inability to bring more upgrades to its suspension system due to the budget cap imposing financial restrictions on how much the team is able to spend on upgrades. Fundamentally, we've done a new suspension this year. Suspensions are expensive things to bring to the car. So, the reality is with the cost cap, we're always looking at the championship situation. We don't know how much we will do. I wouldn't expect that we're going to be making massive strides. What we have realized is there's actually quite a rich seam of development here that we can start to look at. so those programs are working. But the challenge is always how you get your aerodynamics and your vehicle dynamics to work together and optimize. Every team's up to that kind of process, but it's looking at where are the opportunities and how can you bring the two together so they work as one package. Even if the team had unlimited access to cash, the team won't be able to make massive changes to the rear suspension due to the technical regulations essentially freezing the gearbox design till next year. Mercedes make their own gearbox and rear suspension, so it will be easy for them to incorporate changes. But massive design changes in rear suspension geometry will need changes to be made to the gearbox, such as the gearbox casing. This homologation rule essentially ties Mercedes' hands. Even if they wanted to bring a new rear suspension this year, they are not able to do so. Therefore, we can expect a significant change to the rear suspension system on the W15 next year. This is why Chevrolet does not expect the team to make any leaps or bounds this season, as the Silver Arrows are not able to bring an upgrade that they so much desire. This depicts the development direction that Mercedes are potentially going to pursue from next year onwards. The interesting part here is Chevrolet talking about a rich seam of development the team are about to pursue. Mercedes are able to try whatever changes they desire in the simulator and would have seen a significant gain in performance over its current design. It's happy news for Formula One fans that Mercedes are able to understand where they are able to bring massive amounts of performance to the car, and the team might be confident with this knowledge to close the gap to Red Bull next season. This is the sort of news Hamilton would have wanted to hear. We all know that Lewis Hamilton is yet to sign a contract with Mercedes, or any team for the matter of fact. We have seen news suggesting that Mercedes and Hamilton are on the verge of signing a new contract, but that never materialized. According to rumors, Hamilton was awaiting to see Mercedes' prospects, and the jump the team would be making with the upgrades to be confident that he would be able to win his 8th world title with the Brackley-based squad. The Monaco upgrade package did provide that vital performance gain. After the race at Barcelona, we did hear from Lewis Hamilton about his contract negotiations. He revealed that they are very close on signing a new deal. Hamilton has written off this season for his title aspirations, as he has talked about the importance of the team closing the gap to Red Bull this season and be a title challenger next season from day one. I'm hoping at least by the end of the year it would be great if we can challenge Red Bull, he said. But I'm more focused on making sure that we have the car next year to challenge them from day one. The further we continue to push this car this year, the more that impacts next year also in some ways. But the more we learn about this car also sets us in the right direction. He was already a lot more convinced to commit to Mercedes for the next few years after the Spanish Grand Prix results. Now, the news about the team finding a rich seam of development for next year will boost the confidence of Hamilton even more. Former F1 world champion Damon Hill feels like the Spanish GP results in vindication for Hamilton, as he went on to add, "But to hear Lewis say I've enjoyed driving the car, that's a good sign." It's also vindication for him because he's been saying, "I told you, we should have done something earlier," and they've gone and done what he's been pleading with them to do, and they've seen some progress, so well done, Lewis. This is just going to move Hamilton that bit close to sign that contract with Mercedes. So what do you guys think? How significant do you think is this rear suspension upgrade for Mercedes? How soon do you think Lewis Hamilton will strike a deal with Mercedes? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section down below. We'd love to discuss it with you. And on your way down, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to get notified of our future uploads to keep yourselves up to date about the 2023 Formula One season.